Today on Locked On Red Wings, Detroit drops the season opener to the Devils in New Jersey.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily JAWWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scotty's host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Scotty, the Red Wings, first of all, happy Friday.
You know what I realized when I was recording Tigers today? It is Friday the 13th in October.
Yes, correct.
That's spooky. It's a little...
Sure is, buddy.
Happy Friday to you too, bud.
Is it a happy Friday? Is it a happy Friday? The Red Wings... No, I'm just kidding. The Red Wings dropped the first game of the season against the New Jersey Devils. One of the best teams in the league, let's be honest. Jack Hughes is him. That guy is incredible. I mean, Jesus. We're going to talk about the whole game as best we can. There's a lot to break down. I took extensive notes, actually doing my gosh darn job for once. For once in my life. And, I mean, we can start in the first period if you want, because I thought coming out the gate, Scotty, the Red Wings played incredible. And everyone agrees that. Everyone is saying it. At the end of the first period, the Red Wings were the better team. They were very aggressive in the corners. They were winning races to the corners as well. They were forechecking very hard, making it so that the Devils couldn't get anything started off the rush. They were on top of them before they crossed the blue line, just all over the place. They should have had 4 goals by the end of the first. Klim Kostin hit a post. Your boy Sprong hit a post. And then Raymond and Comfort both whiffed on grade A opportunities in high danger positions. Like everything, the power play was clicking. The passing was bing, bang, boom. Just great stuff. I mean, I really liked what I saw out of the Red Wings, and I thought that's how they needed to come out in the first period against, let's face it, a superior roster in the New Jersey Devils. They came out in the first and played like they had something to prove. But unfortunately, it was 0-0 at the end.
Yeah, you know, the score at the end of the first certainly stings a little bit just because they were, like, objectively, honestly, the better team. Like, they were, like, it doesn't matter who you are. Like, the Wings outplayed the Devils in the first period, which is a great sign and was awesome to see. But the score being what it was stung a little bit. And then, you know, the second period, it was the complete opposite, and they were really, really flat in the second. And that was, you know, an exhausting first. They were buzzing. Boys were buzzing after one or in the first. And like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, all in all, they put themselves in a position to win this game multiple times over. Like you already mentioned the opportunities in the first. And then even after coming out flat in the second, it was a 1-goal game going into the third.
Mm-hmm.
And they would end up, it was 2-1, and they would end up scoring 3 goals, the Wings. Like they put themselves in position to win this game a lot of times. You could count on 2 hands, maybe not even that the amount of opportunities they had to, like, take a commanding lead or to even win this hockey game. So got off to a really, really strong start. Opposite in the second, and then pretty close. New Jersey probably outplays you in the third, but a lot closer, and you still get some goals on the board. I mean, we'll get to, you know, thoughts of the overall game as a whole as we get further, but yeah, the great start was a great tone setter, and because of the fact that they looked the exact opposite in the second period, you kind of needed to go all to the wall there in the first, clearly.
Yeah, and I mean, the Red Wings had 58% of the even strength shot attempts. So the Corsi 4 percentage, they had 58% share, almost 59%. So, like, not only were they swarming, shutting down the Devils' opportunities a lot of times, they were shooting the puck from everywhere, like absolutely everywhere. And it was great to see, honestly. Like, it was refreshing that a team that is their game plan is to be defensively minded was going out there and just shooting the puck from absolutely everywhere. And Vitek Vinnychuk and throughout this entire game, I mean, overall, this was a goalie battle through and through. There was obviously other players we're going to mention, but this was Husso versus Vinnychuk pretty much the entire game. Vinacek obviously allowed 3 in the end. That last third goal with like 33 seconds left probably ruined his expected goal saved, or his goal saved above expected, because he only came in at like 0.01. So like literally 1% above.
Even just straight up his save percentage, he ends the game with a 914. If he doesn't let that baby in, you're talking about like a 930 or a 940. So, yeah, he was phenomenal, man. I mean, credit where credit is due. This was a really chippy hockey game. And I was amped up, man. You should have seen me. I was jumping and walking around and pumping my fists and yelling things. I was
What were you yelling?
He thinks he's on the team meme. I was all in it, baby. But yeah, the credit where credit is due. Vanacek looked phenomenal. I mean, obviously, especially the first 2 periods, he was basically a brick wall out there.
Yeah,
even the goals we scored, man. Like, the Spronger, it just like he gets a piece of it, it squeaks through. The Fabbri one again, like right in front of the net, just through the 5-hole. Like, I mean, he outside of the DeBrincat goal. I mean, it was a lot of brick wall happening. He looked great, but Husso was phenomenal.
Yes,
and I think that's in what we should talk about. Like, he obviously 4 goals against at the end of the day. Well,
3,
right? That was empty netter. That game management at the end of the game, I thought was pretty solid. Going to 5-on-4 during the power play, I liked, and then obviously 2 goals, you're going to put him back out there, and then pulling him a second time, I liked how that was managed. But anyway, yeah, I think Husso looked really, really good, and I know that the 3 goals at the end of the day, you're not going to look at that and think, wow, like that dude was on his head or anything, but he was really, really locked in, especially through the first 2 periods, man.
Well,
he was really good,
especially in period 2 when, and we'll talk about this, but the Devils were just gliding through our defensive zone. There was nobody there. The defense's gap control, they were just, Jack Hughes especially, there was no resistance for the Devils forwards. I think he stopped a breakaway attempt on, was it, I think it might have been Bratt. I can't quite remember who it was, but I mean, Ville Husso was the reason they were only down 1 going into the end of the 3rd period, because he had to stand on his head. I know he comes out of this game with an 8.85 save percentage because he allowed 3 on 26 shots against, but his goal saved above expected is 0.8, like almost an entire goal. So that just goes to show, like, he was kind of left out, hung to dry. I know there's going to be one that he's going to want back, and that's that Jack Hughes goal, their first one of the game from behind the net. Like, yeah, that one stings. You got to shut it down and seal up that post. But at the same time, that's just Jack Hughes being Jack Hughes. Like, that's an absolute ripper of a shot to take back there. He intentionally banked it off Husso's head. So the blame kind of goes both ways. Like, on one hand, both can be true at the same time, right? Like, holy cow, that's an incredible shot, but also Husso, my buddy, you got to seal up that post. So
yeah, you gotta seal that side for sure. But
he more than made up for it with the rest of the game.
Yeah, like as a whole, for reasons why the Wings lost this game, Ville Husso is at the bottom of that list. That, and that's not even like typical Locked On Red Wings goalie apologist talking. That's just like pretty straightforward, man. He was really, really good in this hockey game.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, period 2, it was a complete 180, dude. I mean, the Wings,
which is why Husso was so valuable, like you said.
Yeah. Their passing was out of sync. The Devils were swarming them. The passing was abysmal in the second period. The passing
was abysmal, and like you already mentioned it. I mean, there was no resistance on zone entry from which is like such a polar opposite of what the first period was so frustrating. Like, the first period, the best attribute about, and there was a lot, but the best attribute about the Wings in period 1 was the forecheck. It was the most aggressive forecheck I've seen in a period of Red Wings hockey in what feels like years. Like, it was exciting, and they were applying a ton of pressure. And then in the second period, it was so the opposite and so non-aggressive on the forecheck that there was just no resistance, period. I mean, you're just walking, zone entry was easy as can be, just walking in to the wing zone for the Devils. And yeah, it was not great, man. It was really, really again, like polar opposite.
Yeah, I mean, like, you got sprinkled in there some like really nice plays as well. Like Justin Hall, for instance, their Devils were attempting a wraparound, and he slides across the slot and stops the wraparound with his skate. Obviously, the Red Wings were still the team that struck first in this game. your boy Daniel Sprong, Oracle moment, that third eye opened. You called
Third
it.
eye open, baby.
He quite literally ran into one. It was a clear attempt by the Devils defense that deflected off of Sprong's shin pad between Vinicek's legs, and that was the first goal. So, despite how badly outplayed the Red Wings were in period number 2, they did strike first, but then Jack Hughes quickly got that one back and gave them another one because, again, the gap control, like the second period, it's like the Wings didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to play them, and the Devils just continually.
The Devils are fast too.
Yeah.
I know we got to get to a break, but like
Yeah.
they're a fast hockey team too, man. So that to keep pace with them for 60 is tough.
It is absolutely tough, but I mean, hey, good teams win against other good teams, and
Correct.
they couldn't do it in this one, unfortunately. Not trying to sound the alarm bell after game 1 against one of the best teams in the NHL, but I thought the Wings showed. I did think they showed fight. Like they obviously period 2 didn't go their way. Period 3 was a lot closer. Wings score a couple goals, they tie it up, they bring it back within 1. Just the Devils were just the better team in this one. We're gonna take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation. Maybe talk a little bit about, the line combinations, how they get shifted up, the pairings, and DeBrincat's first goal as a Red Wing. But first, I got to talk to you guys today about Jase Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase Case. The Jase Case provides 5 antibiotics for emergency use and gives you peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes you have make sure you have the medication in hand. Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication, delivery, and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Get $20 off these life-saving antibiotics today from Jase Medical by using the code LOCKEDON at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Segment 2, Lockdown Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are talking about the Red Wings game 1 loss to the New Jersey Devils. Scotty, where do you want to go here? We kind of have lightly touched on a bunch of different things here early on. Mostly talked about the first and the second period. We haven't really talked about individual players yet.
Yeah, I want to talk line blender. I think that's an easy transition into some individual performances as well. The forward lines, they went 12-6, by the way. And then the four and not 11-7, like there was kind of rumored it might be. We found that out yesterday morning. And then the forward lines were pretty straightforward. There was really no surprises there. As far as the defensemen go, certainly no surprise at the top. Petrie and Sherratt together, not necessarily a surprise, but on the second pair and putting Ghost on the third pair off rip, I thought was kind of I'll call it an interesting decision. But as the game went along, there was a lot of blender happening on the forward lines as well. In the third period, we saw Raymond play with the top line and play with Larkin and DeBrincat. I think that might have been like we need a goal line. You know what I mean? Like, I think that might have been more situational than like Perron doing anything poorly necessarily. I think that was more of just, we need we're down. We need a goal. We're going to put all of our best goal scorers presumably on the ice at the same time. And yet, like, Ghost played all of the power plays. So even though he was third pair, he his time on ice was still pretty solid. But I'll tell you what, I mean, if you want to start getting into some individual performances, I'm not trying to overreact after one game.
Do it.
No, I'm really not.
No, don't. I'm
but
kidding.
Ghost Despair playing fewer minutes than Sherratt and Petrie is going to drive me absolutely nuts if it keeps happening. And it happened in game 1. Ghost Despair, even with playing the power play minutes, ends with 15:26. Sherratt and Petrie both play almost exactly the same at 17:01, 17:02. Petrie had a lot of penalties, most of them really poorly timed at that, especially there in the third period. I didn't think that the pair was terrible out there, to be completely honest with you. I didn't think I was watching. I was like, these guys are awful. Or these are two, traffic cones out there. I wasn't pissed with the play necessarily, at least straight up. But Ghost is just like too much of a weapon to me, especially again in the third period when you needed goals. Like we just talked about the forward swap. when you put Raymond on the top line in order to get as many goal scorers as possible out there. And then Sherratt and Petrie are out there and there's a penalty against you, give up a goal with them on the ice. Like it just, that is something, if that continues, that will drive me very, very upset very quickly.
So I want to back up to something you mentioned first. I actually disagree with you a little bit. I do think that the reason they pulled Perron off that top line is I don't think that top line of DeBrincat, Larkin, Perron were doing a whole heck of a lot on at even strength. And so they're going back to Raymond to see if maybe it's so like you were partially right. Like they're trying to score a goal, but also that top line. I
can both be true, right? Like they could, yeah, right.
I thought the two middle lines were the middle six lines were the ones that were really doing. Cops and Confer's lines were the ones that were really providing a lot.
Period. The fourth line might have been the best line for either team. I thought. I mean, Costin posted what? I mean, that was
Costin looked really good,
well too, and then he struggled later on. So
well, and for what it's worth, even though at even strength, those three guys only played like Veleno played about 10 minutes, and then Costin and Fisher played 7 and 7.
Fisher had the injury too.
They were second, third, and fourth in the team in expected goals for percentage.
Yeah, I thought they looked really good the first half of the game, and then just didn't play much in the second half, obviously.
But that's fine. Like they're your fourth line, you're not going to play them a whole lot. But if they're making the most out of their time on the ice, then that's pretty good. Joe Veleno, I thought did look pretty good. But yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that the line change in the third period, putting Raymond back on the first line, was actually just a response to the fact that top line hadn't been producing a whole lot.
Yeah.
Going back to your pairs, though, I completely agree. I think that if they continue to, and it's game one, so I'm not overreacting. It could take time to find chemistry, right? But we texted beforehand, and you were like, I think you said like LOL Sherratt.
I sent a GIF of from the show Dave, and it's him sitting there and him going, okay. And I texted you that GIF, and it was Petrie Sherratt second pair.
Yeah, and I mean, I countered back with like just because they're second pair, third pair doesn't mean it necessarily is going to get more minutes. Like it could be a possibility they split minutes pretty evenly. That obviously isn't true because I think Justin Hall finished with about, according to ESPN, about 12 minutes of even strength ice time, whereas Petrie and Sherratt finished with a lot more. And you're right, Petrie and Sherratt were not very good in this game, and again, Petrie took multiple penalties, and I'm trying to like find redeeming qualities, like there are multiple like block shots or hits, like maybe they brought and they did bring the physical element and they did intimidate, like that's their role, but maybe not together at the same time.
That's my point, man. Like they were on the ice in a critical part in the third period, and it ended with a penalty against and a goal given up. Like like you know what I mean? Like that's that's again, it's one game. I'm not saying that's just how the whole season's gonna look, but like when you're playing from behind, why would you not unleash your like best offensive blue line weapon? You know what I mean? Like that just, and instead you go with Sherratt and Petrie like that, which like clearly it didn't work, but you know, hindsight's 2020, I guess. Maybe I'm just talking from that perspective, but I didn't like it in the moment either.
No, and they didn't play a good game. Meanwhile, Justin Hall and Ghost Despair were a really good defensive pair out there.
Yeah, I thought they looked really good, even strength. And then I thought Ghost did exactly what we think he's going to do this season on the power play. I thought the peeper looked great.
Yeah, I mean, did you see the peeper?
Yeah.
That's great. I love that. Using that from now on. I mean, Justin Hall in his 11 minutes and 22 seconds of ice time, he led the team in expected goals for percentage, 71.06%.
Yeah.
At even strength, a relative of 42. So the team produced 42% more quality shots when Hall was on the ice. And again, you know, just at the flip side of the coin, well, Petrie and Sherratt may have had a bad game and they could figure it out after game one. You know, it could be like Hall just played an exceptionally good game, but that so far, that pair of Ghost Despair and Hall looked really good. If you go to hockey stat cards, Ghost Despair was fifth on the team expected goals for percentage. If you go to hockey stat cards, Shane Ghost Despair and Justin Hall led your team. So like, what we're seeing on the ice was reflected in the advanced analytics, whether or not you believe in that stuff for both those pairs. I mean, Jeff Petrie was your worst player on the team at expected goals or hockey stat cards, you know, in terms of in-game impact. I'll throw that up for you guys.
Yeah, like again, like I didn't necessarily think that the entire, like when I was watching them, that I was like, oh my goodness, this is the worst pair I've ever seen in my life. But I didn't understand the situation of going to them late. I didn't understand them getting second pair and getting more minutes than Ghost Despair. And those are like my two biggest qualms. And then like obviously on the ice, I've already said it a million times, but like Petrie with some pretty poorly timed penalties in this game.
Yeah, but let's focus on that. I agree with you completely, but I don't want to get too down in the dumps after game number one. I thought
No. Again, like I'm not saying that this is like what these guys are going to be throughout the rest of the year. I'm not saying it's a complete disaster. I'm not saying Ghost isn't going to get like more minutes. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying objectively in game one, that's what happened.
Yeah. Ghost Despair and Hall, I just thought made a really good pair. Hall or just Ghost Despair doing exactly what you brought him in to do, like you were saying, just driving the puck.
Only not a scratch, obviously. I guess
But I mean, wasn't that kind of the guy we were thinking might be the scratch, anyways?
Yeah, I think game one, honestly, it's. I don't know. I'm not trying to like speculate or like do poor journalism. But, like I think that might have just been like, which one of you makes the least amount of money? Okay, opening night scratch. Like seriously. Well, they're going to scratch Sherratt. Like he has the biggest contract on the blue line. Like, no, like, I don't know. I think it won't be the case all season.
No, obviously not.
Motto will get a ton of playing time, but I think for opening night, that literally might have been it.
I also want to give a shout out. I thought, to be fair, of the Woolman-Seider pairing, I thought Woolman had the better game. I thought Seider.
I thought Woolman looked great. I thought both of them, given, again, like this is a really good Devils team. It's a really fast Devils team. And I thought that they, outside of the second Hughes goal, I thought that they played pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, Seider was caught chasing on both of Hughes's goal, although I think he played the first Hughes goal perfectly. He chased him to the corner, boxed him to the outside.
The second one, he did not.
Yeah, the second one, that was everyone kind of failing the gap control. But,
yeah, just walked in the right in front of the net.
It was a little bit of a mixed bag out of those two, but I thought Woolman did a fantastic job in this game. One, he drew that critical penalty from Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes frustrated, slashed him. He broke up. I remember in the first or second period, he had Devils coming down towards him in the defensive zone. He broke up. He knocked the puck off the puck carrier. That puck then found its way to the second guy. He blocked a pass from that. Then in the third period, that Fabbri goal is not scored if he doesn't jump up and keep that puck in the offensive zone. Although to Moritz Seider's credit, he also dove to keep the puck in on DeBrincat's power play goal. So while they both had kind of a mixed bag's worth of game, there was a lot of good things, especially out of Woolman, to make note of in this game.
For sure.
Moritz Seider, I think there was a little bit of extra rust he may need to shake off in this game, but he's also, again, got the most amount of responsibility playing against the toughest matchups. So, no overreactions, just talking about what I saw.
Yeah, he's got Owen Power's contract in the back of his head.
Jesus. Now we got to do a third. Does this impact Seider's next contract episode?
It's going to become an ongoing joke. Every single contract that's signed for the rest of the history of the league. But how does this affect Moritz Seider's contract?
You're going to see some rookie sign an ELC, and we're going to be like, how does this affect Seider's next?
Or how does this affect LeBron's legacy?
Yes.
That's our version of that.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to wrap up our conversation. Still got to talk about the fact that DeBrincat scored.
Yes,
what was that?
I said yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, I didn't catch that.
Oh.
But first, we got to talk to you guys today about Sleeper. The NHL season is finally here. The Red Wings have begun. Unfortunately, starting 0-1, but home opener on Saturday against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Going to get back to 1-1.
What
calling
a schedule
it now.
to start off the year for the boys.
You know what? You got to show up, baby. If you want to make the playoffs, you got to beat them. I absolutely love the NHL. I know you guys do too. So that's why I want to talk to you guys today about Sleeper. Sleeper is the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network, and it's my go-to for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey. With Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash on daily fantasy. Guys, I'll be honest with you. I love fantasy. I love fantasy hockey specifically because I like hockey the most. I'm not very good at it, just like my betting. Not the best.
We're all shocked.
Right. Go figure. Brian's bad at doing something. It's an ongoing joke in my entire life.
What a turn.
Brian's also bad at keeping his shoulder in the socket. That's an also ongoing joke in my life. But it's so fun to play nonetheless. It makes it so easy to play. And every once in a while, when I win a night, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm not bad at fantasy. And so I play again. You guys are going to enjoy it. And you know what? The NHL has never had bigger, marketable stars than it's had now. McDavid, Ovechkin, Crosby, Makar, Jacob Wallman, maybe. Just pick more or less on stats for these stars, like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. And it offers 100 times payouts on Sleeper. So start paying attention to get your picks right, and you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Segment 3, Lockdown Red Wings podcast. Scotty, we got to mention DeBrincat, man. Power play, bang, goal. Let's go.
Good.
Yeah,
good, man.
The power play and penalty kill in general looked pretty solid.
Yeah, I like I said, I thought the power play looked great. I thought, the penalty kill I thought was really, really solid as well. Yeah. So I don't really have too much else to add. I mean, it was a good goal. I'm glad that we can kind of get that like off his back early, right? We kind of get like that whole like, oh, when's he going to score his first goal? Like, okay, here's opening night. We don't have to talk about it. So that was good. I'm interested in, I don't know how to word this. Not in a reaction to game one, just in general, like since the signing happened, I'm much more interested in his 5-on-5 production than his power play production. So like, I'm happy it happened. It was a huge goal in the game. Glad that he got his first goal. But I mean, going forward, I'm much more intrigued by how effective he's going to be on even strength.
Yeah, and I mean, that power play that he scored on wasn't necessarily the best example of puck movement because Larkin tried to cut out in front and lost it and just found its way to DeBrincat, who fired it home. But I mean, outside of that, ESPN has the Red Wings listed as 2 for 5 on the power play. They listed Fabbri's goal as a power play goal, but I could have swore that came at 4-on-4 with the goalie pulled for a fifth man, unless because I know they were.
No, I think it had just ended. I'm pretty sure that it just ended. It was 6-on-5.
Okay. So it was a power play goal for Robbie Fabbri because sometimes ESPN gets this stuff
wrong. Because that
power
play ended with like 45 or 50 seconds left, and they scored at 33 seconds.
You're spot on. So yes, it was a power play goal for Fabbri. So your power play technically goes 2 for 4, 50%. I thought, especially again in the first period, the puck movement on this power play is incredible. Like the ability to retain the puck I was impressed with. Under pressure, they were able to get away.
Sider had a couple of good plays in that regard.
That's where Sider really excelled in this game, was on the power play. The puck movement down low, they had the Devils. This is where the Devils really couldn't figure anything out and kind of were just collapsing on the net, trying to keep anything out of the slot. The Red Wings
Ghosts, dude.
So good.
He's so fun to watch on the power play, man.
And I mean, that's where Sprong hit the post. Was on one of the power plays in the first period. Set play, I looked like, just draw back again, like we saw in preseason, kind of draw back towards the point and just release a rocket. And then, of course, DeBrincat's goal and Fabbri's goal. Penalty kill, 5 for 6, technically, from the Red Wings' perspective. Penalty kill did a great job in this game, especially because there was a lot of back-to-back penalties Red Wings took. Perron taking a couple slashes. Although the second slash was pretty weak, it was still technically a slash. Dude. It was technically a slash.
I know. And like the league is the
cracking down on the
said it too. Like the league is like uber sensitive when it gets near the hands too. But golly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right. I completely agree. It was kind of weak, but it was by the books a slash, so they called it, and I can't really complain too much about it. But I mean, they did a fantastic job of keeping the Devils' chances to the outside on the penalty kill, with the exception of Jack Hughes, who was on the outside behind the net and just released an absolute just piss missile of a shot off the top at the side of Husso's helmet. So, I mean, when it comes to special teams, pretty impressed. I really liked what I saw against one of the best teams in the league. Yeah, I'm trying to think anything else off my dome that needs. Let me check. Let me refer to my notes while I do that.
I mean, I'm trying to think too, man. I was impressed with the face-off circle. I wanted to point that out.
They won 55, almost 56%.
Yeah, well, so Kopp goes 7-6. Larkin goes 13-8. Fisher went 1-0. Shout out. But the biggest one for me was like, again, like you want to point to, besides the score sheet, like reasons as to why you bring a guy in. JT Compher 12-7, 63% in the face-off circle in this game. I thought he was, when the team was forechecking well, I thought he was one of the best in that area as well. I kind of came and went with the rest of the team, but I thought that he was really aggressive defensively. He was a really good defensive forward for the first half of this game. So yeah, that was something I wanted to point out as well. And then yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else. I can't really.
I mean, overall, I thought the top line, it did say that they were pretty invisible for a lot, but they did have a couple opportunities. There's one moment where DeBrincat at 5-on-5 won the race to the puck in the corner,
Yeah.
and then centered to Larkin for a slap shot in the slot, just couldn't bury it. So like there were moments here and there where like you can start to see that chemistry begin to build, but there was still obviously a lot of miscommunication in the second and third period. That wasn't helped out by the fact that the Devils were a fast, aggressive team, kind of put the pressure on again outside the first. There's a lot of firsts as well for the Red Wings, points wise, the new Red Wings at least.
Yeah.
Obviously, Daniel Sprong scored his first goal as a Red Wing. They took the assist away from my boy Michael Rasmussen. I even tweeted out he was a point per game player. And then in the third period, they're like, yeah, we're going to take that away.
Get pranked.
DeBrincat got the power play goal, his first as a Red Wing. Shane Gostisbehere assisted, his first point as a Red Wing. And then Fabbri scored, assisted by Comfort, which would be his first assist as a Red Wing. So immediately you're feeling the impact of the new guys. And I thought that those middle six lines, I mean, even the third line with Andrew Kopp looked really good. And that's exactly what we thought. We thought the depth would be what really shined against other teams.
Yeah, for sure. And like this is a game that I feel like in previous years, like even if you play them close in the first like that, once the floodgates open, like they really open. And I feel like this was it was impressive to hang tight and to come back and make it a close game in the third period. Just not enough gas at the end, obviously.
Nope. I mean, still a lot to clean up, obviously, if you want to beat a team like the Devils. But overall, I mean, you lose 4-3, which is disappointing. You always want to win every single hockey game, especially the first one of the season. But you're going to lose games as well. So we're not going to overreact after the first game of the season. But get back at it Saturday at LCA, your home opener against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Get back to 1-1.
Yeah, dude, their start to the season ain't a joke, eh? I mean, going from the Devils to the Lightning, first two games of the season, it's a tall task.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Scotty, you wanna dampen the mood? You want us to dampen the mood, rather, or not?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to talk about with this game, so if you want to move on, let's do it.
All right. So we're going to take a couple minutes here at the end of this episode to kind of talk about, just address the fact that, I mean, me personally, Scotty, I won't. Huh?
Said it's impossible to avoid.
It's impossible to avoid. Obviously, the NHL made the decision to ban Pride tape at the NHL level. This comes obviously as a conclusion of, the whole hullabaloo that came on last season with some players, refusing to wear the Pride jerseys. The NHL did away with Pride Night altogether. I think theme nights in general. And then the memo came out from Bill Daly, the assistant commissioner, that they're going to just outright ban Pride tape altogether. And I mean, I just want to say personally, I think that this is a step backwards for the NHL in terms of inclusivity in the NHL. It's really disappointing, especially because, we obviously here at the Lockdown Network have transgender co-hosts. I have a friend who's a transgender player who plays like local leagues around here. And I think it just sends the wrong message to outright ban it. If you are going to do away with the nights altogether, I think it should have been left an option for players to be able to wear it. At least that way, players who have family members who are like this, or no players who want to feel accepted, have the option to show support for those people. I think just absolutely outright banning the ability for players to do this takes away that same freedom of expression that players were exercising in not wearing those jerseys. So, it's players' rights to not wear the jerseys, but I think at the same time, it's a player's right to use that tape. And I think taking away that right is just a step backwards for the league, the same league that just 6 months ago was preaching hockey is for everyone. So I just feel for any closeted players in minor league hockey, professional hockey, that sees the fact the NHL is banning this type of motion ability as a step back. It just feels as if those players are going to see this and trying to find the right words and feel as if maybe the hockey's not as accepting as they had hoped it was going to be, because hockey as a sport needs to grow. And the only way it's going to grow is by learning to accept everyone. And this sport has its problems. It really does. And I thought the Hockey for Everyone movement was one of the better things the NHL was doing to try and grow the game. And it's just disappointing that they would do away with it altogether and outright ban players from making the choice, exercising their right to support a cause they cared about.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Obviously, I don't have too much more to add, but I do think that the inability now to, like, under the rules of the NHL, express your support or show your support for them is heartbreaking, I guess. Like it's really, like you said, it's a big step back. This was 12 months ago. Hockey was for everybody was this sports marketing campaign. It's a complete heel turn. It's a big 180, and it really does come down to just like the complete banning of it. Like the fact that even if you choose to, and it's not like a whole team thing or like everybody must, like the fact that nobody now under the rules, if they feel like they want to show support to like this community, that's just completely not under the rules and guidelines anymore. So yeah, I agree with everything you said, and I do agree that it is a step back in the inclusiveness of a sport that is desperately trying to become more inclusive.
Yeah, it's just is unfortunate because it feels hypocritical, and on one hand, or let me restart that sentence. I feel like the NHL almost outed themselves as having only been in it for the profit, and that's what bums me out the most. Because you spend greater part of a decade trying to tout, hey guys, we want you to be a part of our game, we want you to be a part of our sport, and now as soon as you get any amount of pushback from players or segments of the fan base, you completely ban it altogether, and that makes me feel they only ever cared about it for the profit. But you know what? The one thing that warms my heart is the fact that you've seen a lot of players come out and say, I'm probably going to wear it anyways, or that this is the wrong decision by the NHL. John Merrill, former Red Wing in particular, always has been a very active member of the community and spreading, hockey is for everyone's campaign. So I'm really happy to see from certain players that they're speaking out against this mandate. Because again, I think if players have the right to not wear the jerseys, that at the same time, the players should have the right to wear the tape. And not have it.
Like this shouldn't be.
It's about the message this is sending,
Right. And like the biggest thing for me is now, like, the rest of the season, this is going to be like some like controversial news story. Like we're gonna have to see every night, like who, is anyone wearing the tape tonight? Like, and we have to, like, it has to. Now it's going to be this this big like cloud that just like looms over like anytime any action is taken in regards to like hockey tape.
Yes.
Like it's now created a complete, storm, and all eyes are going to be on those type of situations for the entire year. And just something, again, as I said at the beginning, it's at this point, if you're a part of the hockey community or speaking about the hockey community, it is quite literally unavoidable. And the fact that it is unavoidable is part of the issue.
Yeah. And I mean, I firmly believe that everybody should feel like they can watch and play hockey, because this is a fantastic freaking sport.
Yeah.
And to see them do a heel turn on this, I have to imagine that for many of our colleagues and any players that are out there, they see this and they all of a sudden feel a little bit less welcome in the sport. So because let's be honest, this is a community that's been largely stigmatized for a long time. And so we were finally making strides. And now it just feels like it's a step backwards for the league. And part of the reason why maybe they struggle at growing compared to other leagues. But let's end it there before we, get too far into it.
Off of there.
Yeah.
But yeah, glad we talked about it.
I thought it was important for us to mention. This is just, guys, you can, if you want to disagree with us, it's your opinion. You're allowed to have it, but this is just how Scotty and I feel regarding the situation. So, all right, Scotty.
Technically, we could do a game preview. Like we've already 40 minutes deep, but like technically, we play a hockey game on Saturday, so that's kind of exciting against the Lightning. Lightning at the time of this recording are 0-1 on the year, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. They Did I just lie? Oh, they haven't played yet.
Yeah, they did. They played the Devils. They won 5-3. Or God dang it, we played the Devils.
Dude,
The
what is
Predators.
happening?
The Predators. They played the Predators and won 5-3.
Oh,
in
right.
Nashville.
They were on the opening night lineup. Okay, ESPN, it literally says 0 for 1, so I'm not taking blame for it. But yes, they beat the Preds. I mean, this is a good team, and this is like a really good, like the Devils are a really good hockey team as well, obviously, but this is interdivision. Like we talk so much about like the Atlantic, like what you have to do to climb up in this division. And I think it starts with at least playing competitive, if not winning against the top teams in this division. Also, Dougie Hamilton played. ESPN told me that he was out on yesterday's show. I said that on air, so that was super cool. He scored. Thanks a lot, ESPN.
Yeah. What ended up? No, it didn't end up being the game winner. Technically, Hall's empty netter ended up being the game winner.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this Tampa Bay Lightning team, they're still really freaking good, but you have an opportunity here with them scrambling for a goaltender to steal a game, steal some points here. So come out flying like you did, and don't let up off the gas pedal for a full 60 minutes, and take advantage of a weak netminder and nut, and you can get back to 1-1 easily. So there's not we're so
a win in the Atlantic is like I don't care if it's October or April, baby. I want to win against this division because that's going to add up real quick at the end of the season.
Yeah, I got a good feeling though. I do. There's not a lot of data to unfortunately pour over because it's so early in the season yet. But yes, they are a 1-0 team. They won at home against Nashville 5-3. Now coming to Detroit for our home opener on Saturday.
Give me a Perron goal.
That's a good question. Maybe that should be a thing this season. Trying to predict who scores the first goal.
Okay, David Perron.
You're going Perron? I'm going Michael Rasmussen.
Of course. You should just do it until you're wrong or until you're right, honestly.
That's honestly what I was thinking, is I could do Michael Rasmussen.
See how long it takes to be right.
Yeah. All right. Scotty, any final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
We ball. We'll be back with a new episode on Monday, recapping the game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So stay tuned to that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.